We're going to take you back to Diepsloot now. Chriselda Lewis there, our eyes and ears on the ground this morning after all the developments yesterday, a mob justice incident that resulted in the death of one person overnight. Let's cross to Chriselda to find out what the latest is. Chriselda, it's over to you.
Well, Sakina, just devastating scenes here in Diepsloot this morning. Sis Nomsa, willing to speak to us here at the SABC on the death of her husband. It's just a couple of hours now that her husband Elvis is the man now identified to have been stoned and set alight and died here in Diepsloot. It's very difficult to conduct these interviews, Sakina, on the basis that it's just been a couple of hours, but she has indicated that she is willing to speak to us about what had taken place. Sis Nomsa, siyaxolisa kakhulu mama ngento eyenzeke apha kutata wekhaya. Khawukusichazele ukuthi bekwenzekeleni la endlini kuze ukuthi sekufike kunjena ngoku utata Elvis akasekho.
Mina sizwa abantu nje nokha next door besithi ID passport, so sithe sibazwa siphuma lapha kulumkhukhu kabhudi lo sibukela uzalo, sithe siphuma abantu labana sothi ngcono sibaleke thina ngoba yena akana ID kana passport, mina ngine passport, so ngabona ngcono ngihambe naye. Sabaleka sapota ngapha komkhukhu sahlala ephasejini si3 kwimi Elvis veli kama lakhe umpotazwe nyathi. Sabaleka la esinomave lami sahlala khona ngale muva, sezwa abantu sebenokha kuleli jarada sebevusa abantu lana ejaradeni, sahlala thina lokho sisemuva le silinda ukuthi sizuthi kuyahamba njani njengoba bethe ma ID passport. Sithe sizwa abantu laba sebegibela phezulu kwemkhukhu abangathi bagijimisa omunye badinga omunye obalekile, basithola thina sicatshile lapho babona laba bayithu, mina bazange bangibone. Mina ngahle ngalala ngezenge nje ngacasha nje kakhulu, bona laba bahle basukuma babaleka besizwa kuthiwa namba yibo otsotsi babadubula abantu babaleka, bathi mabe baleka mina ngasala ngihleli lapha nemuva. Ngithe sensizwa ukuthi ayi ungathi bahamba nabo bayale phansi, mina ngabe njika ngibuya ngazocela ungena kulumkhukhu okamakhi ngahlala khona, bajika naye sebemshayile vele ube ngasakhoni nokukhuluma ayivele ophonga ukuthi unomse enhlala nawo lana. Bafika bangithatha bangena nami emkhukhwini, bathi wena indoda yakho lengathi bathi sikuphi isibhamu, ngathi ayi asina sibhamu uthini, bathi impahla lezi uzithathaphi ezinje ama microwave, ngathi hayi ama microwave wayenikwa ngumlungu, lo mlungu lo singamfonela njengamanje, lami izinto lezi ama plate lama bhodo ngikwanikwa ngumlungu wami ade ngimsebenze eMidrand manje kangisasebenzi. Bathe awulaqinisa kulanto enjalo, into lezi ukuthi iyazitshontsha indoda yakhe lisela, ngathi ayi ayisiyosela, singafonela noma uphi umlungu libuza ukuthi into lezi wazithathaphi. Wasithathe balungu uyasebenza igarden eForwest, mina lami bengisebenza eMidrand but manje angisasebenzi. Lingamfonela lo mlungu wami limbuza ukuthi into lezi ngizithathaphi ngiyo nginikezayo. Baqeda lapho bathi hayi wena ulamanga, bangishaka wani ngemfupho. Ngabe ngithi hayi mina isibhamu kangisazi, sechani yonke indawo lizisethelelina mina ngoba le nto elikhuluma ngayo angiyazi. Baqalisa ukuthi vele ngithole bona sebedilizile lempahla, vele sebekhiphe yonke into endlini, mangizongena lana vele bekhiphe yonke into nje, yonke into isiphansi konke nje, vele angazi ukuthi vele omakhi bami bade bengifakela nje impahla manje. Baqeda lapho bathi bona ngomfihla ukuthi isibhamu yasazi sikubhamphinda futhi ngemvubu, kodwa bebengangishayilo khona okhulu benshaya lokho ukuthi ngiyethuse ukuthi ngikhuluma iqiniso. Ngabatshethi iqiniso lami yilolo nalelo, angisombulali ayisiyombulali lo baba. Baqeda lapho babethi hayi sinikeze 300 abayi2 kade semsele nabo phakathi abanye bephandle. Ngabe ngithi mina nginayo leyo mali engange 300 ngoba kangisebenzi, lo baba engihlala naye usebenza igarden akana mali, imali esithola encane, so le libiza anginayo mina esikhwameni sami ngine 50 rand only. Babethi bisa yona le 50 rand, ngabe mbaqhubela i50 rand bayithatha. Baqeda lapho bathi hayi sizasala lana sizahamba naye sizabona ukuthi sizayenzani ngaye. mina bengicabanga engqondo nami sithi hayi kumbeni bazomyeka njoba sebethe bafuna leyo 50 rand kathi bona bazoyamshisa okubuhlungu ukuthi bamchisile ngingazange ngimbone nokuthi uchiselwe phi ngasala ngihleli umnyango bawuphulile wonke umnyango bakhipha ngasala ngilele kukhamisile sokungavalwanga ngiyi-1 okubuhlungu ukuthi manje ubulewe mina kangimbonanga ngigcine khona phe besuka naye ngizwa bethi sebulewe ngitshelwa ngumna wakhe esehambe wajike epolice ukuthi ayibuza ukuthi ukuphi bamthola ukuthi uchiselwe lana wamfonelwa nje ukuthi ubaba wangwakho seshonile bamshisile
sizwa kanjani ke ngokuma
angizwa ubuhlungu phelelwa ngamandla ngoba ingane zami noma yona li 200 ade ithole ebalungwini ikhona ukuthi yenelisa ukubhadalela ingane efela into angayaziyo ukuba ngasazi ngavela zange sibaleke ngasihlalele emkhukhwini
Sakina, very difficult scenes here this morning, speaking to Mam Nomsa, who has lost her husband. We're able to identify now her husband Elvis is the man from Zimbabwe who was attacked as well as satellite, and he passed away just a couple of hours now. Sisi mhlambe singakhuluma nawe kancane mama uhlala lana ejardini ingane. Okay, all right. Just very quickly, Sakina, let me speak to one of the other residents here very quickly. Sisi kubuhlungu nibone
thina sizwe labantu benokha ebusuku ngavusa indoda yami ngathi kunabantu abanokhayo lapha ebusuku for sure ngamaphoyisa asefuna i-passport ID asivuke sigcoke savuka sagqoka banokhe ejaradini labomakhelwane bachaya babuya bachaya kwelethu kasizange savula masingavulanga sezwa khonapho sebesithi vimba nathi siyaphuma bachaya impembe mabeshaya impembe nathi siyaphuma bamgijimisa babiya naye bathi nangomunye sama lana phandle sagcina kunjalo salala ukuthi singathi kuhambe njani ngabuya ngazwa kuye ekseni ukuthi uhamba njani ngamthola ekhalethi baba singishiyile ngoba umngane wami emphila naye ngafika ngamlungisela impahla nomunye umngane wethu samlungisela sampakishela angitshela ukuthi akulalanga lana ihambo thatha ingubo yami egangeni endaweni enje ngale ngahamba ngamthathela ingubo yakhe ngayikhupha amahlamvu becwela amahlamvu kuzwe ubuhlungu kakhulu.
Sakina, I'm just going to extremely difficult scenes here this morning. I must say, Sakina, I think this is the one part of our job that we really hate. The part of our job that we really hate, where to get to the bottom of what has taken place. And unfortunately, we have to cover this because these are incidents that have been taking place. There is now loss of life. And Nomsa is now alone without her husband. I'll just show you, this is exactly where. I won't go inside out of respect for the home at this stage, Sakina. So this is where he was taken out from. This is the home where Elvis was taken from, and this is the last place where his wife had basically seen him, saying that she wishes they could have hidden a bit more. I guess the conversation about what she says, he did not have a passport, his illegality in the country, perhaps we can talk about at a later stage. But right now, one life has been lost, and Sis Nomsa is on her own just a couple of hours after her husband has left her. No arrests, we understand, have been made so far with regard to this particular murder. And Police have been deployed here to Diepsloot. While there's a sense of calm here in Diepsloot at this particular stage, there are fears that there might be an escalation of violence if the police minister, Bheki Cele, does not come with answers tomorrow. So as Sis Nomsa remains, she fears for her life. She described how people came banging on this door in the early hours of this morning. Accusations asking for a gun. She told them there was no gun. They asked for 300 rand, she says. And also they took out a whip and whipped her several times. Not too hard, they say, on the simple basis that she says that they were trying to scare her into asking where the money is. And questions, I guess, at this particular stage about who those individuals were. We heard from others as well, including his classmate, who I spoke to a bit earlier on, indicating that this was his a classmate, how they moved him from here right at this home, and he was then taken. And Sis Nomsa says that was the last time that she was to see her husband. A case has been opened, I understand. But at this particular point, fears of what's to happen next. You'd recall in the conversations that we had in Alexandra Township, where we saw these kinds of scenes also taking place, where foreign nationals were accused of the escalating crimes in these areas. There were fears that soon there will be loss of life. Yes, the questions need to be asked about whether he was legal in the country or not. But at this particular stage, this family is grieving here. And they say they had nothing to do with any criminal activity. When they were asked, Sis Nomsa says, about a gun, she said there was no gun, and implored them to search the premises. They say that that happened, that basically ransacked everything. I'm not going to take you inside this house at this stage. I think Sakina, it would be highly inappropriate of me to do so at this particular stage. It does look rather insensitive at this point by mere virtue of the fact that I'm here. But unfortunately, this is a story that needs to be told. It is the aftermath of the violence that we saw yesterday that culminated in the early hours of this morning of Elvis losing his life at the location that we spoke about a little bit earlier on. I think that's where I'm going to have to leave it, Sakin. I know that you have an outsider broadcast that you need to attend to, but at this particular stage for Sis Nomsa, a very difficult moment as she tries to speak to family members and try to contact them about the loss of her husband. We'll bring you much more here from Diepsloot. While there's an uneasy calm, there is now the shadow of someone who has lost their life. And Nomsa is the one who has lost her husband. Sis Nomsa is the one who has lost her husband, and we'll bring you the latest from here. So far, no one has been arrested in connection with that murder.
Well, thank you, Chriselda. That's the latest from Diepsloot there. Chriselda Lewis tracking down the family of the deceased. We now know his identity, Zimbabwean national. I think the surname that came through, if I heard it correctly, was Nyati, could be Elvis Nyati. And there, as you can still see in shot, his grieving wife, Sis Nomsa, and she was actually relating the story to Chriselda about how things actually unfolded. And Chriselda showing you there the place where they lived, and she says that her husband was in fact a gardener, and the evidence of that is clear even on the walls of their home. And the questions that obviously will be asked around this is the element of criminality, because it is really heartbreaking to hear that the people who ultimately then took Elvis away asked for 300 rand, and when they said they did not have that, Sis Nomsa says she indicated she only has 50 rand, that was taken, but they still took him away, and as we know now, he was ultimately stoned to death and set alight. And that's the latest from Diepsloot. A very, very difficult developing story that we will continue to keep you abreast of this morning. Chriselda Lewis on the ground.